Welcome to Norwegian Spitfire Foundation. This is NSF Talks.
Hello guys and welcome to NSF Talks. NSF Talks is a podcast series aiming to dive deeper than ever before into the complexity of Norwegian Spitfire Foundation, our mission and the various of people that are involved in helping us achieve our goals. And that is to acquire, restore, operate and maintain Spitfires. Well, summer is almost over here up north and we in the NSF were back after a summer holiday. I hope everyone had a good time and enjoyed your holidays. So for today's podcast, we have a special treat for you guys. We will be talking to a pilot with lots of warbird experience and other experience as well. He lives in Sola in Norway. He's married with 3 children. He has a background in the Norwegian Air Force as well as a career in both Norwegian Air Shuttle and Sterling. He's educated at Cranfield University and is a member of the Royal Aeronautical Society. He's on a daily basis working as an instructor at Sola as well as being the chief pilot on Biltema's Spitfire and P-51 Mustang. He's flown types like the Sapphire, Chipmunk, Tiger Moth, Cornell, Stearman, Harvard, and as mentioned, Spitfires and Mustangs. And he's also a board member of Norwegian Spitfire Foundation. So please welcome Espen Tjetland.
Thank you, Tor Idar, and very good to be here.
Looking at that bio, I mean, you're not that older than me, a few years perhaps. And I'm like, wow. And that brings me to my first question, like how did all this start and when did you take an interest in aviation?
Yeah, I've always been interested in technical stuff. And actually it started with model railways, which eventually, after my dad dragged me onto an air show here at Stavanger, I got hooked on airplanes, and I asked him if I were to take my model railroad venture over to things with wings, what should that be? And he said I should model the Spitfire because that's the most beautiful aircraft in the world. So right. And that was the age of 13, I guess.
So that was back in the 80s or something like that, or the 90s?
Yeah, it's just 89 or 90, I think.
Was that an air show at Sola or was it at Gardermoen? Or?
Yeah, it was a local air show here by the Norwegian Air Force. Yeah.
Okay. So just talk us through your teenage years. Did you build models and yeah?
Yeah, I did plastic models and radio controlled models, and eventually this led me over to the technical college in aeronautical engineering, and I built models and learned about aircraft simultaneously, and this. One thing led to the other, and here I am.
Okay. Did you bring this so into your education and doing that bit when you were a teenager and a young adult?
Yeah, actually I did. And I one of my co-students, he had a book which had most of the popular World War II aircraft in drawings in 1/72 scale, and I used the old overhead system that we had in those days with a printed sheet onto the blackboard, and I drew a Spitfire in 1 to 7th scale with the intent of flying it one day. So I got back to my workshop at my house with my parents, and I started working and buying a lot of wood. And yeah.
I do remember, because I was doing the same thing back then, building these plastic models, and then I was often I wasn't sure if I liked Airfix or Revel, or because there were two like companies sort of fighting a little bit on for the market shares. Any thoughts on those types of companies?
In the early days, I tend to stick with the Japanese brands, but nowadays I think Airfix Matchbox has improved a lot, so I'm sort of doing that still. Yeah.
Which sort of it's sort of one of my last questions, but since we're talking about it, because I see on Facebook that you've taken an interest in the Bouchon, the Hispano Bouchon. So take us through that project.
Yeah, obviously I haven't experienced the real Battle of Britain, but we saw the motion pictures, I think, which was casted in 1968. And for a young aviation World War II enthusiast, it was really breathtaking to take part in that play, which was real aircraft, not like we see today with a lot of computer graphics. You knew it was flown by real aircraft with real pilots, and the shortage of 109s led to the contract with the Spanish Air Force, which was sort of getting rid of their Bouchons, which was a 109 G2 model, license built by Hispano Aviation, and I think it was 200 aircraft which flew in the Spanish Air Force. So for me, I think the Merlin 109 Fusion was a beautiful creature, and I instantly liked the aircraft. I know there are a lot of opinions on this topic, but and as a modeler, you couldn't actually find any Bouchons because it's very rare, and modelers tend to want the real stuff with a Daimler-Benz engine. So I started making a lot of chopping off noses on Spitfire aircraft and trying to put them together, and yeah, a lot of work to make it look like something which could look like a Bouchon. And this has evolved the last 6 or 7 years, where I've with all the 3D technology, and I have a contracted design bureau which does all my design work, and I now sell the Bouchon in through my shop, which is now a professional way, and it's very accurate, and it looks just right.
So if I want to go and purchase myself one of these Bouchons, where do I go?
You can actually visit my shop, which is bouchonscalemodels.com, which is best for me, but you can find it at Hanan's, various shops around the world. I have customers from Australia to the US to Taiwan, Russia, all over. So it should be, and of course you can buy it on eBay, of course.
Yeah. Right. I think I know one of those guys you've been working with. Don't know his name. Forgot his name, but because that's why I've been working on this for a while. So yes. So let's just go back a little bit, because you mentioned that you've been in the Norwegian Air Force. So what was that like?
It was very good, and I have to pause for 1 minute now because I think our the lady of the house here at work has turned on the alarm. So could you entertain the guests for a minute, and I'll just
yes,
pop out
indeed.
for 1 minute.
So this is live podcasting. So
Yeah.
so what happened now is that well, like he said, that someone just put the alarm on, so he just have to pause that or stop that alarm. So I was about to talk to him about the his involvement with the Royal Norwegian Air Force. And since he's not here, I'm going to go through some of our other topics. I'm going to ask him about because he's been flying passenger jets for Norwegian and so on, and I personally very interested in learning more about the process of becoming a Mustang pilot, which I know that that he did a few years back. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about
All right.
Spitfires.
So
yes. So yeah.
I have bought myself another 2 hours. So
Good.
We're safe.
Good. Yes. I was about to ask about the Air Force.
Yeah. Of course, when you're young and you don't have a lot of experience and you don't know what life brings, I guess you're very dependent on good advices. So I was advised to continue my education in the Air Force. So I went to Luftforsvarets Tekniske Skolesenter, which is the technical training center in Norway in the Air Force. And I'm sorry, I've been running, so I'm a bit short of breath, but this was a fantastic place. I specialized in electronics and did my basic military training and a lot of training in mock-ups and simulators, and eventually a bit on the F-16 in the Air Force. Fantastic place, lots of good memories, and then my sort of tour of duty was at Andøya Air Force Base in northern Norway, where I was aircraft engineer on the P-3 Orion, which patrols the North Sea close to the Russian border every day, which was a very interesting concept.
How long did this go on for you, being in the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force in 4 years, and I could have been there longer because I enjoyed it so much. But I had started on the PPL, a private pilot license, and there wasn't really an aircraft to fly up there. I brought the Saab Safir on a couple of occasions, flew there for 2 weeks, and a lot of guys wanting to come along and experience flight. So that was good, but there wasn't any daily flying, so to speak. And so I've moved down south again to get the hours going. Yeah.
On your PPL, yes.
Yeah, on my PPL,
yeah.
And eventually CPL and so on.
Okay, so because did you then become take a job as a captain or not a captain, but flying at least with Norwegian, or did you fly someone else's company first? Or?
Yeah, it's a mix of very hard work and a bit of luck, I guess. When I moved down south, I was offered a job as an aircraft engineer in Broughton Safe, which was a very household name in aviation business in Norway, mainly domestic and European air travel. And I worked there for a couple of years, and I was offered I was doing PPL instructions, aerobatic instructions as well during that time. And I was offered a job as a ground instructor in Norwegian, which on one conference led me into a conversation with a representative of Sterling Airways. And when I got back at the office after this conference, I dropped this person a mail, and I got a reply. This was on a Wednesday, and they wanted me, or they wondered if I could start on Friday on a first officer job. And right. I was going to a concert on Saturday, so it didn't really fit in. So I postponed my first day at Sterling Airways until Monday. So it was really moving fast. And I was there, wonderful company, wonderful people, lots of good memories for about 13, 14 months. And then I moved back to Norwegian because Sterling was a Danish carrier with, it's easier to be in a Norwegian company with all the legislation and taxes and everything.
I'm not super knowledgeable on these airlines, but what happened to Sterling?
They had some growth, and at that time, shipping name in Norway called Fred Olsen owned at least the majority of Sterling Airways. And at some point, he sold this company to Icelandic owner, and with all the financial crisis, all the economy in Iceland was the plug was pulled on the Icelandic economy, and that was the downfall of Sterling Airways.
Right, okay. Yeah. So was this back in the 2000s or?
Yeah, mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah,
maybe.
I remember the airline, and I think I flew it in once too. So, but during this time, did you already start to fly these aircraft that you list, like the Chipmunk or the Tiger Moth and the Cornell? Like when did that happen?
Yeah, it happened when I moved to Oslo with a ground instructor job. So I got a deal with Norwegian at that point, and which said I could work. I had normal working hours, office hours, but I could start work 2 hours earlier and continue my work 2 hours beyond the regular office hours. And I could later on take that period and take a week off. And then I completed my CPL instrument training, and I also did a lot of instruction on Kjeller outside Oslo in Nedre Romerike Flyklubb, which is a major flying club near Oslo. And there I got acquainted by the captain, Tiger Moth, Cornell, and Chipmunks, and Cub. Yeah.
Any thoughts about, for example, flying the Tiger Moth for the first time? Do you remember any specifics from being able to fly one of those classic aircraft?
Yeah, it's the flying qualities is a bit odd compared to other standards. It's not a very in-trim aircraft, so you have to fly it all the time, and due to the shape of the wing tank, it provides a very strong down to your neck because you're sitting in the back. So I found it quite wise to use a lot of clothing around my neck, because otherwise I'm gonna look like a statue for a couple of weeks. So, but besides that, it's very enjoyable because you get to fly to all those smaller airfields with grass, and it's really something compared to larger airports. And yeah, it's not an enjoyable aircraft to fly at the larger airports. It's mainly to try to figure out a nice little location and go from place to place. Yeah.
Yeah. Just remember the one question that I have to ask, and since you're an instructor, and then I'm sure you have a lot of different types of students that want to learn to fly. Does it come natural to some people, or is it like, do most people have to learn the hard way, or is it like when people play an instrument and you say like, oh yeah, this guy's a natural? What's it like?
You quite quickly realize if it's a natural pilot or not. But most pilot can be taught even to get a good foundation for further development of their own skills and so on. But you very rapidly discover if it's a real talent. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so jumping back again, you've flown the Tiger Moth. You've flown. What's it like flying the Chipmunk, for example?
Well, when you've flown let's say the Saab Zafir, which is an excellent training aircraft, and also the Tiger Moth, it's quite easy to fly a Chippy. It's no big deal actually. So I flew the Chipmunk and the Cornell after I flew the Cub and the Tiger Moth and the Zafir, obviously.
Right.
So it's not a major aircraft. It's not a very difficult aircraft, but it's a very basic and good aircraft, because you can do all sort of stuff with it, and it has an enclosed cockpit which you can fly all year round with the aircraft. So it's a bit cold in the winter in the Tiger Moth. Yeah.
I also, because I'm going to get to the Mustang part, because I'm sure that a lot of people would like to know about that part. But there's also Cranfield, which I do not know that much about. Sorry to say, but could you talk a little bit about that side of your career?
Yeah, I got acquainted with local people here with quite some substantial aeronautical background and education, and they advised me on taking my career to another step, and Cranfield, with all its history, seemed very tempting, and I was sort of looking for a way to expand my horizon. So I went on the airworthiness master degree program at Cranfield, which was very broad and very good.
Did you live in England, or did you?
No, I commuted. The course consists of 10 modules, which is broken down to 1 week per module. So I went there for 10 weeks over a period of 4 years, and I completed my MSc last autumn.
Right. Congratulations. Not that long ago.
No, it's quite fresh.
So with the decades going by, were you interested in the historical side of aviation at all, with 331 and 332 squadrons in Britain, and did you read any books, from that side of things, or?
Yeah, I've read the major Norwegian books on the topics. Marius Eriksen, Svein Heggelund, and now I'm reading First Light with Jeffrey Wellham.
Yeah, that's a very good book, just have to say. Extremely good book. Yeah.
Extremely good book, and highly recommended. So I was just, I found myself in my couch a couple of days ago where he describes a dogfight with a 109, and he's out of ammo, and he's trying to outfly this 109 to survive, basically. And it was quite intense. it was intense moment as a reader to experience that. He is a very good writer. Was a very good writer.
Yeah, I remember reading this book. Oh, it's quite some time ago now, maybe 2008 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he came up to me. This is like a side story to it all, but Jeffrey Wellham came up to me at Oxford. I think it was in 2012 and stuff, and I was totally awestruck by this old man coming and asking for directions, because I wasn't able to tell him anything about what was going on. So someone else answered, but that was a vivid memory for me, being able to be so close to one of those Battle of Britain heroes. So. Yeah. Yes. So I think the first time that I saw you on Facebook or online was you were in the cockpit of a P-51 Mustang, apparently having flown solo. So I think I got a message from someone, because I did promote this podcast a little bit, and I'm not sure if they thought it was you, or but someone said, like, you have to, if it's flown in a warbird, you have to ask what was it like going through the process of flying and soloing on the P-51 Mustang. So you have to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, I had reached a certain point where I had to make a decision whether I was taking this warbird flying to a higher level, and a friend of me, which we now operate the Biltema Mustang and Spitfire together. We went over to Stallion 51 in Florida, and we flew their checkout training program. We were not allowed to solo the aircraft. So I did that a couple of years later on Sean Patrick's Mustang, which was an incredible feeling, because it's really something when you're up there alone with the machine, and you don't have anyone to rely on. You can look at the back seat, but it's empty, You're all by yourself, and I think that sharpens your senses. And I've never flown a bad first solo, because I wouldn't call it anxiety, but you're a bit tense. But I think it sharpens your senses, and actually the first solo flight is a quite nice experience. Always been very pleased after completing such a flight.
So what was it like just taking off in a Mustang for the first time, with or without an instructor?
Yeah, as I said, the program is quite extensive. So they put you in the back seat on the first, and you basically fly all the missions from the back seat on the first ride. And you're just hanging on to the stick, I guess. And but then you realize this is just a fantastic, robust aircraft which can do about anything. I remember that we flew together. We took off in formation, and we landed quite not in formation, but at the same time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes separation, I guess. So we were both, me and Reininge was just two happy Norwegians with two blue-nosed aircraft, flying around and doing all kinds of maneuvers.
What year was this?
2014. Yeah.
2014. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I had been thinking about this for many years, but my aim all the time was on the Spitfire, and I scratched my head many times on how to be able to do such a thing. And a fellow here in Stavanger said that Boltby Flight Academy was doing conversion courses onto the Spitfire, and it was just very expensive. But then I noticed that you could actually cut the course in half if you had similar training. And then I went to check up on Stallion 51, and with a very favorable, the US dollar was very favorable to Norwegian kroner at that point. So I think I made a bargain in that way, but still it's very expensive. But I actually, compared to the first price for the full course on the Spitfire, I ended up with the same price for two similar aircraft. So I was actually quite pleased with that.
And then you went on with Boltby, and you have been flying Spitfires as well. So,
yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Because I was this back in 2015, and I was at Oxford with Lars Ness, and
Yeah.
I think he had just flown his first flight in a Spitfire, and he said, I can't get that flight out of my head. So what was it like for you to go from the Mustang and to the Spitfire?
It's a much easier aircraft. It's much simpler aircraft than the Mustang. Bearing in mind that it's been designed one generation earlier, so it's a fairly simple cockpit with a low wing loading wing, so you can really throw that aircraft around the sky without being afraid of it will flick or anything. And it has the same blind flying panel as on the Saab Zafir. So, and I think I must built between 50 and 100 models of that Spitfire cockpit. So everything sort of was where it should be, with controls and everything. I've seen numerous of videos with Ray Hanna and Shuttleworth Collection and other organizations. So it was a real pleasure to finally do it. And I flew with an excellent guy, Pete Kinsey, which is also I'm not sure if he's still chief pilot of the fighter collection, but at least he was then. Very nice guy. Yeah.
Good. So this was your Spitfire flight. Was that in 14, 15?
It was in 14 as well. So
that was in 14 as well.
Yeah.
So both aircraft at the same year.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
You said.
Yeah. Yes, you said a little bit about it, but in comparison, because I know that because there's a lot of these aviation nerds, and they're very interested in how these two compare the Mustang and the Spitfire, and any other thoughts on comparing those two?
Yeah, the Spitfire is lighter than the Mustang, quite significant. So given the same engine on both aircraft, the Spitfire will at least initially outclimb the Mustang. But with the laminar flow airfoil of the Mustang wing, it will accelerate faster above a given speed than the Spitfire. So actually the Mustang will outdive the Spitfire. But then again, with the low wing loading, the Spitfire can make tighter turns than and I think the Spitfire can outturn anything. Yeah.
Was this the same period as when you got involved with the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation, or how did that happen?
Yeah, it's more or less at the same time, because there was an air show, I think, in Haugesund the same year, and I heard that the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation, Harvard, was going there, and I asked around because I'd been involved in that Harvard before or pre Norwegian Spitfire Foundation. So I asked around if he could make a slight detour in the Stavanger area before heading to Haugesund, and I flew with Lars Ness at the local flight here in Stavanger, a little bit of formation with the Saab Safir, and we talked about a smaller air show local here, where I was the air show director, and we talked about having the Harvard over again. So I flew the Harvard 2 times that year. And then Lars later asked me if I would become more involved in the NSF, doing manuals, organize air show for the NSF, and I accepted, and it was a real adventure.
And you've been a part of NSF ever since?
Yeah.
Because you've been involved with air shows, and I know that Eirik Østensjø has also been, involved. But what's that like? What's it like trying to organize an air show?
It's a lot of planning. Air show in Norway is nothing compared to the UK or other large nations. It's a few through the year, maybe 4 or 5 air shows in Norway through the season, which is very short as it is. It's mainly from May to September, and of course a lot of planning. Everything is volunteer work. There's no professional air shows in Norway. It's based on volunteers, and in sometimes even the guys flying the aircraft are volunteers with their aircraft. So it's a very tiny, fragile operation in Norway, but it can be very good. And a couple of times we've had the local airport authorities asking us to have an air show, and they provide all the economical conditions, and then we have a 2 days event.
There's someone at the door, so now you have to excuse me for 2 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
Silence is golden. Huh?
Silence is golden.
Yeah. Okay, so continuing on just a little bit, I see that time flies. Just want to know if you have any memories from, because I spoke to both Knut and I've spoken to Eirik and Lars about this, and that's the Rolf Arne Berg event from 2017. So any fond memories from that event?
Yeah, it was. I think it was an achievement made by all persons involved. We managed to have both a Spitfire and the Mustang up to Norway, and it flew on air shows here in Stavanger and in Arendal, Gullknapp, and also at Kjeller, and some other air shows along the route to get the financial stuff in place. So and with these aircraft, you don't just fly them across Europe from A to B unlimited. You have to apply for overflight permission because they're not certified in accordance with the European rules. So there's a lot of bureaucracy involved when you when you try to get these aircraft flying from one country to another. So yeah.
With air shows and events in mind, and the COVID situation hopefully being under control soon, what do you see for air shows in Norway and even in Europe for the future?
Well, let's just hope and pray that we're back to normal in when the season kicks off in, let's say, April next year. And maybe there are some restrictions, but I see that some UK operators now run their shows more or less as planned. Let's just hope that people get their vaccines and can gradually get this back to normal again. Besides that, I don't have any. I'm not a miracle man. I'm just a guy with hopes. So we'll just have to hope for the future.
Yeah. Yes. Just thinking of, I see that we're running on 45 minutes, and that's fine. So this is sort of like an end question, and I've often said that this is the most important thing. But before I do that, you've flown so many types of aircraft that I'm simply interested in knowing if you have any favorite aircraft to fly.
Well, the favorite is obviously the Spitfire. It's I think it's more or less like love at first sight, and I know it's gonna be that way for the rest of my life, whether I fly it or I just have flown it. So there are a lot of ambitions, and I would like to be more involved in this community, but I don't think any aircraft is gonna impress me more than that. And I guess with the history and the flying qualities, it's just a very good mix.
And speaking of Spitfires, and because there is PL258 and the restoration that kicks in, and recently we've been given a considerable amount of money to restore parts of it. And what's your hopes and thoughts on PL258?
I hope it will be a national symbol of our aviation history and the achievements made by Norwegian personnel abroad during the war and also after the war. It's been a very important backbone of the foundation of the Norwegian Air Force. So it's quite an achievement to have this project and to see it move forward. And I hope that more funding is coming across, and that we can see this project to its end, which is an airworthy condition, and the public can see and touch and feel Norwegian aviation history, and be aware of all the achievements being made in the past.
Which is very important, and I think as NSF, I think we touched upon a nerve by combining, the historic part and the history and the sacrifice, and doing that and showing the public something flying and something they can see and touch and feel, which is, the key to our success, I think. So, couldn't agree more with you. One last and one important question. What type or mark of Spitfire do you prefer, and why?
I like the one I'm flying now, which is the Mark 16, because that was the very first Spitfire I built as a kid. A small matchbox model, and I thought every Spitfire looked like that. I discovered later on that there's a variety of models and marks, but the picture of this aircraft on the front of this little tiny box has just sort of made its way into my brain, and so that's the ultimate Spitfire for me. It's sleek, it's bubble canopy, it looks fast, and it is fast.
Which also remind me, so we should just have to do a bonus questions, because you do operate a Spitfire and a Mustang for Biltema. So just as a bonus, how did that happen? Suddenly there were two warbirds in Norway again. So
yeah, it was a bit of surprise. There was some changes in Biltema, and actually we just got a plain question if we wanted to continue the operation from Stavanger, and we accepted. It's very, very uncomplicated matter, and the answer was not complicated either.
So I'm sure you're hoping to bring those warbirds back on the airshow scene for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any last thoughts from you before we stop talking and I have to publish this very soon, because I'm sure people are dying to listen to this.
Yeah. No final thoughts. I hope that people want to be acquainted by the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation and the work being made by all team members, and all persons involved matters in this project, and the visions of the organization. So I think we wish everybody who wants to get involved a warm welcome, and to take part.
Yeah, and thank you, Espen, for taking time and to talk to this podcast, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on flying and everything else. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Tor Idar.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye.